summarise then the sources of energy, we have renewable and non-renewable. We've spoken just now about the non-renewable in terms of the nuclear and fossil fuels of oil, coal and gas. But in terms of the actual source of that energy, the sun is the original source of most energy resources, including oil, coal and natural gas. That's the fossil fuels. Obviously the sun is the source of solar energy, but is also the source of the wave energy, wind energy, the chemical energy in terms of our food that we use as fuel, and of biomass. So the sun is directly linked to a lot of the energy sources. The only sources that are independent of the sun's energy are geothermal, which relates to the heat contained in the Earth's crust, nuclear, which is the energy associated with a nuclear reaction and heavy nuclei splitting apart, and tidal. Tidal energy is associated with the gravity exerted by the moon. Let's then look at the environmental implications of the different fuels. Each energy source below has implications for the environment. Well, obviously the fossil fuels create CO2. That's the most obvious one. And they then contribute to the greenhouse effect and global warming. Biomass also creates CO2 and contributes to global warming and to acid rain and so on. Hydroelectric. For hydroelectric, we are damming up rivers, so we're upsetting the natural habitat. Some valleys have to be flooded in the creation of these dams to generate the hydroelectricity, therefore it upsets the natural habitats in the area. The tidal and the wave can affect marine life. So both of these can affect marine life and can upset the balance of the marine life within the water. Wind affects birds in some cases, and it's also, for all three of those actually, people would complain that it's an eyesore in the environment. And nuclear, the waste produced by nuclear reactions is dangerous to the environment. It's difficult to dispose of, and it's radioactive for long periods of time after it has been used up in the reaction. So we talked a lot about the biomass and the fossil fuels creating CO2, which contributes to the greenhouse effect. But what is the greenhouse effect? Well, radiation from the sun travels to the earth in the form of light waves, and these light waves have a short wavelength. That then is absorbed by the earth's surface, and it is then re-emitted. But when it's re-emitted as heat waves of a longer wavelength. When that longer wavelength heat wave rises up into the atmosphere, it can't penetrate through the atmosphere and is reflected back down to Earth. Now this increases the temperature of the Earth. Some of this increase in temperature is not only desirable but essential, because if it was too cold here on Earth we couldn't survive. However, if we have too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, due mostly to the burning of fossil fuels, this will cause too much heat to be trapped in the atmosphere, and this then is leading to global warming. So again, we have a very short wavelength of radiation coming from the sun, which easily penetrates the Earth's atmosphere. It reaches the Earth's surface where it is absorbed by the Earth. The heat is then re-emitted to the atmosphere. It's at a lower temperature, but it's also at a longer wavelength, and due to that longer wavelength, it is trapped by the atmosphere. And the more CO2 we have in that atmosphere, the more heat we're trapping, and that's leading to a rise in the temperature of the Earth, and we call that global warming. So to summarise global warming, carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. It lets the sun's heat energy into the Earth's atmosphere, but it will not let it escape, so it traps it. This results in the Earth getting warmer. This effect is called the greenhouse effect. And global warming then, as the result of that, global warming occurs due to the greenhouse effect, and it results in ice caps melting, which could lead to flooding and changing weather patterns, and it affects the whole Earth. To summarise then, nuclear resources. One of the best ways to learn off, as well as the mnemonic we had at the start, is the mind map, because the mind map links it back to its original sources. This is the sun. Linked to the sun then, we have wind, and as a result of the sun's energy producing the wind, in terms of convection currents, it then creates the wave energy that we can harness. The sun also provides us with solar energy, which then allows plants to grow, which creates biomass, and then over the long term, over millions of years, creates fossil fuels. It also links to the hydroelectric. Explosive energy or reaction energy is where we get our nuclear energy. And then the initial explosion of the Big Bang has resulted in stored heat energy in the Earth, down below the surface, and this is what we call geothermal. And the final one then, this is the moon, which then has linked to tidal energy. So those are the energy resources that we can use and their original sources. To summarise what you have to learn, you should learn how energy is captured so that we can use it. Learn the environmental implications of the different sources of energy. You must learn their advantages and disadvantages. Learn specific ones for each of the energy resources. Don't just sit down and learn that it creates greenhouse gases or it creates no greenhouse gases. That's too straightforward, and you would have known that yourself before you studied GCSE physics. Therefore, learn specific advantages and specific disadvantages for each energy source. In addition, they may ask you questions identifying a specific side effect of energy resources, and you need to be able to describe how there are advantages and disadvantages and give reasons for those judgments. Also, you need to learn the details of the greenhouse effect. So let's just look at the learning intentions again then. By now you should be able to state a definition for renewable energy and be able to identify the 7 main types of renewable energy and describe how they are produced and used. You need to be able to identify and describe production methods and uses of the 4 main types of non-renewable energy. You need to explain how the main forms of energy are derived and describe how electricity is produced in a power station for both fossil fuel and nuclear power station. You need to be able to describe the environmental implications and advantages and disadvantages of each energy resource.